everybody. Glenn, Red Dog Motorsports. How we doing today? Another week, another project. This week, we're working on my buddy's 2007 Chevy Yukon. Got the 5.3 in it, 4L60, four-wheel drive, and we're basically doing a full drivetrain rebuild. Not doing the axles, but we're doing brand new block. It is a bored over 5.3, makes it a 5.7. We're doing a 4L60 rebuild. I'm going to be taking it out. It's going to the transmission guy. I'm not physically doing the transmission rebuild myself. We're going to redo all the U-joints and everything, and we'll rebuild the AC system. We're going to rebuild the we're going to replace the power boost unit, all of the basics, get into all of the parts that are difficult when it's together and easy to get to when it's apart. And basically everything will be replaced for him, and he can get another 240,000 miles out of this truck. But for today, we're going to get the covers dropped. Darn it, I'm drawing blanks here. The skid plates dropped. We're going to get the exhaust out of it and work to get the torsion bars released, all of that good stuff, so we can drop the transmission and transfer case, get them pulled out, so that we can get things moving along. So let's get to it. All right, everybody, we're underneath the vehicle. I've got a little bit done already, and by a little bit I mean I've got the front drive shaft removed. I have the exhaust from the manifolds back to the exhaust can, the muffler removed. And now what we're getting ready to do is I'm going to remove the drain plug on the transfer case. We're going to do the pan on the transmission. That way I can get the fluids out of them, so when we start removing them, it's not spilling everywhere. And this being it is a four-wheel drive, but it's Chevy, so they're torsion bar, not a solid axle. So I've got to remove the torsion bars, and to do that, we got the keys. May not be able to show it to you. I have marked back here, I have marked the keys, and this just gives me a reference line to know how much to tighten them back up. I know I'm crooked. I don't have a lift, so I get to lay on the ground. Keeps me young, right? So we're going to loosen those, and then hopefully I've got all the weight off the front end, so that means that it's sitting with the wheels down. That should remove any tension on these, that's other than the keys themselves. Once I remove this bolt, these should become loose, and we may need to knock them around a little bit to get them, and then they slide forward. That will let us remove this cross member. There's just two bolts holding it in, and then that gets us in position. Once this is drained, the transfer case that is, we can do the 8 bolts. It slides back a little bit, you turn it, and then you should be able to drop it out. At least that's the plan. So let's see if we can get some of this done. I wasn't going to film this because it's a real pain in the butt being underneath here, but I mean, if you're going to do a YouTube channel, what's the point of doing it and then not filming, right? You don't need to take them all the way out, the nuts, or the bolts rather, just until they're all the way loose. Of course, they still got a little bit of tension on them, so I gotta figure out. I always have trouble getting them. Well, that's true. We need to get something in there to push up on them. Let me get a jack or something. I wanted to do this in one shot if I could. While we're doing that though, let's get this started. This is an 18. For the drain plug, don't use your gun on it. Ow. broke one of the exhaust manifold studs, which is not my fault. It was already messed up. And I tried heat and I tried PB blaster combinations. It didn't work. Oh, that's pretty dark looking. And of course, I didn't bring a rag with me. All right, y'all watch that. No, I'll cut all that out. But I'm gonna go get a jack. I forgot, I need to push those up. All right, that was easy. I don't need it 100% empty. I just need it empty enough that it isn't gonna spill everywhere when I remove it out the tail cone and stuff. Because of course this has slip joints, not yokes. Or I guess slip yokes, which is where SYE comes from, slip yoke eliminator. All right. I'll go get a rag and a jack. All right. Where you at? Well, battery's getting low too. I'm gonna do something about that. Okay, so once the bolts are removed or loosened on the keys, not the keys, but the key retainers, I'm using my ball joint press, and you press them back up so that you can remove the retainers. And then you'll be able to remove the tension safely. Okay. All right, there's the bolt. There's the key. And now we just remove the ball joint press. And then the key will be loose. And then we should be able to remove the torsion bar. And then you just got to do the reverse to get it in. Big pain in the butt. Get myself back in frame. I've heard of guys using C-clamps to do this. I've used a jack in the past on the ground. All right, once it's that loose, now the tension's off it, see? Now it's safe to play with. Big pain in the butt. I am not a fan of new vehicles. All right, there's the key. Now I just got to mark it so I know which one's lit which. All right, these don't need to be taken out. They can be just left right there. But let's do the other side, and then we can move on to removing the cross member and then getting the transmission or the transfer case out of here. May actually get this transmission removed today. We'll see. Let me put my bolt back in here. And actually, I'm going to just set it back up in here in place. And all that does... Now I can't lose it. Alright guys, apologize about the terrible lighting. Alright, so while I was waiting for the batteries to charge on the camera and whatnot, I went and took care of some running around. I drained the transmission and disconnected some wiring and the shifter, that kind of thing, little stuff. But now I'm set up to go ahead and remove the transfer case, and I'll show you what I got going on here if I can. Oops. Terrible camera work, I know. All right, so what we have is up in here so there's two parts to this. There's the transmission that ends right here, then there's the adapter, then there's the transfer case. From here, there's the output shaft that sticks through the middle of this and then goes into the transfer case. The transfer case has a female input splines. So I'm going to undo these bolts on this side of the adapter, on the transfer case side, because I don't have any room to go back. If I could show you, there's a cross member, welded in cross member that can't be removed. Well, it could be, but we're not going to do that. So I'm going to remove them. I believe it's 8 bolts, 6 or 8, I forget which, doesn't really matter. We're going to remove them, and then we should be able to wiggle the transfer case back off the output shaft. It only needs to come back off at about 3/4 to an inch, and then I should be able to turn it to clear the tail shaft over the top of that cross member, and then we lower it down. That's the plan. Hopefully I don't drop this thing on the ground, but I'm gonna lower you back down, then you guys can watch and let me know how it goes. Now you can see I use a motorcycle jack since I work alone, and the jack gives me a wider base to deal with rather than trying to balance it on top of, say, a regular car jack, which is just a problem. Now hopefully I didn't cover these up to the point that I can't get to them. I know I can't see them. Should have done this before I put the jack in the way. Not that I couldn't go ahead and remove the jack, but one of these days I'll get a lift. Lift is just a problem though. It, on the one hand, would be nice, but on the other, I don't have the space for it. It would be in my way. You know, they take up, you know, if you've got 8-10 feet, well, you got more than 8, you got usually 10 feet between them, I think it is 10 or 11, and then you got the actual uprights themselves, so you know you need like 14 feet, 14.6, something like that wide. I just don't have a place to put it. I'd have to put it inside or something, but then it takes up room that I use for other things, and one of these days I want to build a lean-to behind my shop and basically add on. That'll let me do it like I need to, but that's for another day. In the meantime though, the rat rod has gotten started. We got the suspension going. I should be getting a video out for it pretty soon. And I got a wheeling trip coming up next week. Combination parts run and wheeling trip. We're gonna go get the hard top for the rat rod. And we're going to go wheeling for a day in Tennessee, since that's where the hard top's at. Then we're going to drive over to Alabama and go to Choco Loco with the group and wheel there for the weekend. and then come back. Should be good times. So the stubby did it. Of course, not tight enough, or not loose enough for me to do it by hand. Not yet. Still in the blind, but we'll get it. Oh, I set one of the nuts somewhere, and I don't remember where it's. I mean, it's got to be right here. I didn't put it in my pocket. All right, there's that one. All right, so that should be all of the ones on this side. 1, 2, 3. That's 4. All right, let me go get the ones on the other side. Y'all let me know if it starts to fall. What did I do with that one? Dang it. I took it off. Where did I set it? That's a good question. I don't know how I lose this stuff. I do find it, actually. I'm laying on it. All right. So there's only 6 bolts. Man, the stubby don't fit on this side at all either. You can get it if you switch it back and forth. What a pain in the butt. All right. Well, the good news is though, they're not like super high torque fasteners, so once I get them off, should be fairly easy to get them back on. Now hopefully I can get enough space to back this thing up to clear the studs and get this thing out. Without killing myself or injuring myself. Oh, damn it. Yeah, of course. Of course. I didn't. Yeah, I guess there would be fluid in there. It's from the transmission, even though I drained it. And it's gonna look like I stuck a damn pig under here. Let me try to get a pan underneath that. All right, I probably already got most of it out and on the ground. Yeah, it was almost done. So that did pretty much nothing. Okay. So now the question is, how screwed am I gonna be? All right, we got that. Coming down. Oops. Why are you not coming down? Why does it not want to go down? At least this isn't a 205. Them damn things are a beast to deal with. Don't damage nothing. Shade tree mechanics is fun. Not. All right, we almost got it. All right, it's down. Now, try not to damage the shifter. The real question is, how are you going to get it back up in there, Mr. Ballard? That's going to be fun. I may have to call reinforcements to get it back in. We'll see. All right, let's pull that out and we'll get started on the next thing. Next thing's transmission. All right, guys, so we're back underneath the vehicle. Figured I'd catch you up on what was, what is, and what is going to be. Got the transfer case and all that out as we showed. I am now on to transmission. Try to raise you up here, see if I can't get you a better view. Kind of hard underneath here. But I've currently got the transmission angled down. We need to go through, these are the fuel lines. They're connected. I need to disconnect them. I'm hoping you can see that. But at any rate, there's fuel lines over here. And we just need to release the bracket. I need to finish removing the electrical from it. Make sure it's not connected anywhere. Looks like it's connected over here to this bracket, same. We've got the transmission cooler lines and a heat shield. And then there should be the 7 bolts that hold it to the engine block. And I should be able to just, and the torque converter. So I got to remove the torque converter plate, disconnect this one should have, it'll be 3 or 6. I'm not certain what the 4L60 has. Typically it's 3, but then we'll get all that removed, and then we can remove the 7 bolts that hold it to the block. I need to remove the transmission dipstick once those are done, and then we'll be able to remove it. Don't know that I'm going to have you under here while I do all that, just because you're kind of in the way, and I am laying on the ground, and I don't want to get crushed by the transmission. Not that I get underneath it, but I do have to be careful. They are heavy. I don't want it to slide and hit my hand or something. All right, so that's what we're going to get on. We'll get started, and then I'll show you once I get it back out. All right, guys. So basically got everything out. All of these 6 bolts up above. We just got these last 2, and they're already loose. Torque converter's disconnected. Everything above is disconnected. I've got this jack, I know looks a little sketchy, but it's just there to keep the motor from falling. And it wouldn't go anywhere. It would rotate against its mounts. And typically I'd leave it sit back anyways when I put these in. But I'm trying to keep the transmission from moving around too much. I want it level on the jack as much as possible. One thing I did do, I do have a strap. You can't see it. I've got a strap across the back end. The torque converter, of course, is really heavy. Makes these nose heavy when I've got them balanced by the back of the by the pan. So in order to combat that, I put the strap on it. It works out all right. It won't upend the jack or anything, but I don't want it tilting forward off the jack, and it's easier with the strap there than me trying to hold it while I do everything else. Sometimes this stuff's such a pain when you're by yourself on the ground, you know. But one good way to check how safe things are is typically, if you can do them by hand, not having to use equipment, then everything's stable. All right, get this one out and this should do it. All right, here we go. Move stuff out of the way. I'm going to go behind the transmission. All right. And there we go. Just like that. And now I just have to let it down. This is always the fun part. Just watching across the top, making sure I haven't forgotten anything. But it looks like we are good. So now, the transmission, of course, won't come out with all my boards in the place. See if I can't back you up a little bit. Alright, so I got all my boards underneath this transmission in here. So now what I got to do is work them out little by little until I can get it set down without dropping the dang thing. It's a lot of fun. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it off camera because I got to move around doing it so I don't crush anything. And then we'll go from there. Good times.
Was a modern-day gypsy when she stumbled into town. She had some tricks up her sleeve.
So these are usually, some of these, like this one, usually in Don Garlett's museum here in Ocala, Florida. If you're ever this way, well worth going to the museum. A lot lot of history there, a lot of really cool drag racing memorabilia. You just won't get to see in many other places. Look at that, sitting right on that rear end.
Imagine it exploding.
Oh yeah. Can't even see over the supercharger. Hey everybody, let's talk about the what was, what is, and what will be's. I'm back on the Tahoe. Got the transmission out. It went out to the builder, came back. It's now sitting on the floor of the shop. Got a brand new torque converter with it sitting there on the floor. It's all ready to be put back together and go back in. But first, motor has to come out of this one. We need to swap all of the externals to the new long block. And we need to do some rebuilding on this one. Namely, we're going to do a little bit of AC work, replace the evaporator and stuff like that. Since we're going to have it all apart and bled down anyways, good idea to replace those now before we recharge it and then have something fail. We'll do all the seals and whatnot all at that time. Basically do a little bit of a rebuild on it. We're also going to pull off the Hydro Boost and replace it. It's leaking, been leaking for a while. So we need to get that replaced. Not gonna film every step of this. A lot of this is pretty basic, pretty straightforward, just unbolting parts, remove and replace. No fabrication, no real tricks. We'll get a little bit more involved when I do go to swap the long block over. See if we can cover any useful tips there. But for right now, I've removed the alternator, the air system. We've got the belt. I'm getting ready to break open the coolant system and drain it. Then we'll remove all of the wiring. We'll disconnect the AC system. I think for this removal, I'm going to remove the fans. That gets me space up to here. I measured it. It's about 8.5 inches. The back of the motor needs about the same to clear. So I may go ahead and remove the water pump, power steering, alternator bracket, and the AC compressor all while the motor's in here. The only difficult one would be the AC compressor, and it's meant to come out while the motor's in. So if I can get all of those removed, that just leaves the crank pulley. I should be able to get everything to clear. We'll be removing the intake and installing a lift plate. I'll be able to use the hoist and lift up and forward to get it to clear the motor mounts. Should be able to leave the headers in place, or not the headers, but the manifolds, and it should slide right out. So I say now, yo, what's up everybody? It's time for the what was, what is, and what is going to be. So we're down to need to remove the valley plate and bolt up the lift plate in its place. Obviously I've got the intake removed, done a little bit of vacuuming in here. I'm gonna end up cleaning it better. You know, we're not reusing this motor at this time, but my buddy may want to reuse it for a turbo motor or something else in a toy at some point in the future. So eventually I'm gonna clean up the heads. We'll get some tape on them so that they're all sealed up and we don't get anything in them. But for now, I'm just using the old sleeves off of my t-shirts that I cut off. They work just fine. I did clean up down here and vacuum so that I can minimize dropping anything in when we remove the valley cover. So we're gonna get it done. Once that's hooked up, all I gotta do is disconnect the 2 motor mounts, 3 bolts each side, and we should be able to pick this thing up and work it on out. Everything else is disconnected. The wiring's a little bit in the way, but it'd be nice if I had another person. Might have to get a bungee cord or something on it, but it'll pull over and this thing should slide right out. I say so now. We'll see. All right, everybody. Phase 1 of the Tahoe is complete. Transmission's out, motor's out, obviously. I've already removed the exhaust manifolds and the flex plate off of this. Got a little bit more to go. I'm gonna remove the ignition system, the front accessory drive, the crank pulley, a couple of the other minor items on here that we didn't buy for the new motor. But the new motor's got new valve covers, new oil pan pickup, all new sensors. So not a lot coming off of this one. Next week, we're gonna replace the fuel pump, the hydro boost system, the evaporator on the AC system. We'll stab the new engine in, get the transmission hooked back up, and all of that good stuff, and get the Tahoe out of here. I'd like to thank all the new subscribers, all the support that everybody's been giving me. It's just absolutely awesome. Hopefully, I can continue to produce some content that is entertaining, maybe educational. What can I say? I'm a bit of a dumbass, and some of this stuff I do is really just done my way and not the right way. But signing out for now, and next week we'll get everything put back together. Oh, and by the way, I blew the motor up in my buggy, so that video is going to be coming up too. We're going to have to replace that. Have a good one. Talk to you soon.